Axel never expected his humdrum life to suddenly take a wild turn. He was just sitting at his desk, mindlessly scrolling through social media, when the summons came. A glowing hologram materialized out of nowhere in his small apartment, and a voice boomed from the projection, "Axel Turner, you have been chosen for an important intergalactic assignment. Please report to local authorities for immediate briefing." He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and squinted at the hologram. It flickered a bit, like someone wasn't quite sure what they were doing with the tech. The voice repeated its message, "This is not a drill. Report now." Still processing the absurdity of it all, Axel stood up, shaking his head. Maybe it was a prank, some elaborate marketing stunt? Who knew? But he figured he might as well go. His life couldn't possibly get more boring than it already was. 10 minutes later, he found himself standing in front of an unfamiliar building, one that looked both futuristic and strangely out of place in his neighborhood. He pressed the doorbell, a soft buzz signaling his entry, and the door slid open. Inside, it was all sleek surfaces and flashing lights. The receptionist, a tall figure with a somewhat too wide grin, gestured for him to follow. Axel was led down a winding corridor before reaching a small, sterile room with a single chair and a desk. Behind the desk sat a human woman, her glasses perched on her nose, and the look in her eyes said, "You have no idea what you're about to get into." "Axel Turner, welcome," she said. "You've been selected for a very important mission. You've been chosen as the assigned companion for a diplomat on Earth. The mission requires you to guide and assist her with various cultural activities." Axel blinked. "Wait, what? Guide who? What does that even mean?" The woman's smile didn't falter. "You'll be guiding an alien diplomat. She's from a species that's part of a larger intergalactic federation. Your role is to help her acclimate to human culture." Axel's mind spun. An alien? A diplomat? What the hell was going on? Before he could ask any more questions, the door behind the receptionist opened with a whoosh. A tall, glowing figure stepped in. She was stunning, with features sharp enough to cut glass. Her skin shimmered in the light, and her eyes were a bright, impossible shade of violet. But what caught Axel's attention the most was her aura, utterly self-assured and completely foreign to him. She looked at him with an expression that said she had just found a human specimen to study. The woman behind the desk stood and turned to Axel. "This is Zyra. She's your diplomatic assignment." Axel's jaw dropped. He opened his mouth to speak but was interrupted as Zyra's voice, smooth like silk, echoed in the room. "I am the one assigned to you by local authorities. I trust you will serve your role well, human." She smiled with a mischievous gleam in her eye. Axel, still trying to process the situation, felt his face heat up. "Serve?" Zyra tilted her head, her alien beauty causing his heart to race. "Yes, I need you to guide me through this strange world of yours." Her gaze flicked over him in a way that made him feel both uncomfortable and oddly intrigued. "Don't worry, I'll be a good companion," she added with a wink, sending a flood of questions to his mind about whether she was talking about her diplomatic duties or something else entirely. The receptionist gave Axel a pat on the back. "Good luck," she said with a laugh that sounded like she was in on some private joke. And just like that, she ushered Axel out of the room, leaving him standing in front of Zyra, still trying to figure out what was going on. "All right," Axel muttered under his breath, "this is insane." He turned to Zyra. "So, what exactly am I supposed to do? I mean, do I, show you around Earth? How does this work?" Zyra's lips curled into a knowing smile, and she leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Oh, I'm sure we'll figure it out." She said it in such a way that Axel wasn't sure whether to laugh or run for the hills. For the rest of the day, Axel tried to act like he had a grip on the situation, but Zyra's cryptic remarks and strange behavior kept him on edge. Every time he explained something simple, like the process of ordering food, she responded with a double-meaning phrase that threw him off course. "Would you like to order something to satisfy your appetites, Axel?" she asked at a restaurant, her eyes locked on him, the unspoken tension palpable. Axel, flustered, stammered out something about a burger, trying to ignore the way she looked at him as though she had some deeper, more alien meaning behind her words. Zyra didn't seem to care for the simplicity of human food either. When the waiter brought their order, she peered at the burger curiously, poking at it like it was some kind of strange alien artifact. "So, this is what you humans consume?" she asked, clearly unimpressed. Axel sighed, trying to keep his cool. "Yeah. It's simple, but it gets the job done." Zyra smiled again, but this time there was something in her expression that Axel couldn't quite place. It was almost seductive. "I see," she said, her tone almost purring. "Humans and their simple pleasures." The words hung in the air like some kind of unspoken promise, and Axel was certain there was something else going on beneath the surface. "Yeah," he said, suddenly very aware of how awkward everything had become. "Anyway, I'll just, get the check." But Zyra wasn't finished. As he reached for his wallet, she leaned in close, her lips nearly brushing his ear. "Do you always pay for everything, Axel? How chivalrous of you." Her voice sent a shiver down his spine. She was definitely toying with him, and Axel had no idea how to respond. By the end of the evening, Axel was more confused than ever. He had no clue what Zyra's mission was about, but it was clear that her assigned role in his life was going to make things interesting. As they left the restaurant, Axel couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at play here than just a simple diplomatic mission. And the worst part? He didn't know whether he should be excited or terrified. "Let's get started, Axel," Zyra said, her voice low and teasing as they walked into the night. "We have so much to explore." The words felt like they held a double meaning, and Axel couldn't tell if it was her alien nature or just her way of messing with him. Whatever it was, one thing was clear: his life was about to get a lot more complicated. Axel woke up the next morning with a headache that came from a combination of too much confusion and not enough sleep. He rubbed his eyes, still trying to piece together what happened the night before. "An alien diplomat assigned to me?" He groaned and rolled out of bed, wishing for a normal day, but deep down, he knew his life would never be normal again. When he walked into the kitchen, Zyra was already there, standing by the counter, inspecting the coffee machine as though it were a foreign artifact. Axel stood frozen in the doorway, unsure if he should intervene or let her figure it out. She seemed to be struggling, which was surprising considering she was an intergalactic diplomat. "You, okay?" Axel asked hesitantly, crossing the room. Zyra looked up, her violet eyes narrowing as she turned to face him. "This coffee maker," she said, her voice dripping with the same playful tone she had used the day before, "it seems to insert liquid into a cup at a high rate of speed. Is this how you humans fuel yourselves?" Axel blinked. He couldn't tell if she was being literal or if she was just messing with him again. He groaned inwardly, wishing he didn't have to deal with these constant double meanings. "Yeah, it's pretty standard. You just, press a button, and it makes coffee," he explained, moving past her to grab the mug. Zyra tilted her head, clearly intrigued. "And this coffee, does it provide you with the strength to continue your tasks?" she asked, almost seductively. The way she said it made Axel's heart skip a beat, but he was trying so hard to stay focused on the task at hand. "Sure, yeah, that's how it works," Axel replied, trying to keep his cool. He poured himself a cup of coffee and took a long sip. The caffeine was working its magic on his brain, but it didn't stop the uncomfortable heat creeping up his neck as Zyra watched him with that infuriatingly cryptic smile. "Let's get moving, then," Axel said, setting his cup down and walking toward the door, eager to leave the weird tension behind. He needed to get out of the house and do something normal. Anything to break the awkwardness. "I've got some errands to run. You, wanna come with?" Zyra followed him, her steps almost unnervingly quiet. She didn't respond immediately, but then her voice floated up behind him. "I'd like to observe how you humans handle your material possessions, Axel. You may think they are insignificant, but I sense there's more to this commerce than you let on." Axel turned around, giving her a pointed look. "You mean shopping?" Yes, that's what I said. Shopping. I find your need to acquire things fascinating, she replied, almost as if the act of purchasing a new pair of shoes was as important as a galactic negotiation. This was going to be fun, Axel thought with an edge of sarcasm. He wasn't sure whether to be embarrassed or frustrated. Fine, shopping it is. He grabbed his jacket, then led the way out the door, hoping for a smooth, easy trip. If only. The store was a typical, everyday place, nothing fancy, nothing out of the ordinary. It had a wide selection of things for sale, from clothes to household goods. Axel had no particular goal in mind, but Zyra was absolutely fascinated by everything. She inspected the vegetables, poking at them with a delicate finger, and even scrutinized the price tags as if they were relics from an ancient civilization. I assume this currency you humans use is a form of barter, correct? Zyra asked, holding up a can of soup with an intense look of concentration on her face. Axel blinked at her, his patience quickly thinning. No. We don't barter in the traditional sense. We just pay for stuff. With money. It's simple. Zyra nodded, though her expression said she wasn't convinced. She picked up an apple, sniffed it, and then placed it back on the shelf. I'm beginning to think you humans are obsessed with transactions, she mused. You even have customs for trading these objects for objects. How quaint. Yeah, well, if you don't mind, Axel muttered, I'm just here for a few basic things. He grabbed a bottle of shampoo, but Zyra immediately snatched it out of his hand. This shampoo, she said, inspecting the bottle closely. It claims to cleanse you, but how does it cleanse the soul? Does this shampoo contain your essence, Axel? Axel almost choked. No. It's for your hair. Just your hair. It's not some soul cleanser. It's shampoo. You wash with it. Zyra raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by the idea of a human ritual for cleaning hair. And you humans have special rituals for this cleansing? She asked, eyes narrowing. How fascinating. Axel sighed. Yes, okay, we have a bunch of weird little rituals. But the hair thing is pretty normal. He picked up the bottle and put it in the basket, hoping that Zyra would take the hint. But as he turned to head down another aisle, she was already examining a set of kitchen knives as though she were preparing for battle. Are these weapons? She asked, holding up a serrated knife with a wicked grin. They look quite capable of inserting themselves into things. Maybe this is what you humans use to defend yourselves. Axel's face flushed with embarrassment as a few curious shoppers shot him puzzled glances. No, they're for cooking. You use them to chop food. Not defend yourself. He couldn't help but cringe at the implications of what she'd said, but Zyra seemed unfazed, more fascinated by the concept of a knife as a domestic tool. Ah, so these are tools for your sustenance, she said, raising the knife in the air dramatically. I see. Fascinating. I can't take you anywhere, Axel muttered under his breath, rubbing his temples. Is something wrong, Axel? Zyra asked, her tone light and innocent, though her smile told a different story. I'm simply trying to understand you humans. Yeah, well, maybe don't try so hard, Axel replied dryly, though the underlying frustration was evident. This was exactly what he had feared when they had first met, Zyra's constant misunderstanding of basic human concepts, wrapped up in her own cryptic, double-meaning language. As they checked out, Zyra turned to Axel with an almost mischievous glint in her eye. You've been very patient with me today, Axel. I'm beginning to think I may need more than just your guidance. She leaned in close, her voice dropping a few octaves. Perhaps your services will be required in other areas as well. Axel froze, his heart thumping. He couldn't decide if she was genuinely flirting with him or if this was just her alien way of speaking. Either way, it was completely throwing him off balance. The rest of the shopping trip had been awkward, but this was something else entirely. Right, Axel said, his voice a little strained, trying to laugh it off. Well, I think we're done here. Zyra just smiled and followed him to the door. It seemed that no matter how much he tried to focus on keeping things normal, his life with Zyra was going to be anything but. And at this point, he wasn't sure whether he was more confused by her strange behavior or the strange pull he felt toward her. At least he didn't have to go to work today. Or ever again, if things kept going like this. Axel's morning was nothing short of a roller coaster. After the awkward shopping trip with Zyra, he hoped that the rest of the day would go a bit more smoothly. But as soon as he stepped into his apartment, his phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unfamiliar number. Before he could even say a word, the voice on the other end was unmistakable. "Axel, darling, I trust you've been handling your assigned duties well?" It was Zyra. Again. I'm not sure what you mean," Axel stammered, already feeling a slight headache brewing. "Everything's fine, I guess." "Well, you seem quite tense." "I was hoping we could meet again," she purred. "It's essential for me to fully understand Earth's intricacies." Axel could already feel the subtle, dangerous playfulness in her tone, and he knew he had no way out. He sighed. "All right. Sure. Where?" "I'll be by in an hour," she responded with no hesitation, and the line went dead before he could protest. An hour later, she appeared on his doorstep, clad in a sleek, metallic outfit that shimmered under the apartment's lights. Axel was still processing what had happened earlier that day, and now, with Zyra standing before him, he was bracing himself for whatever was next. "Zyra, what now?" Axel asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and exasperation. Zyra simply smiled, her violet eyes gleaming. "I need to learn more about your social customs," she said. "Your interactions are quite intriguing. Yesterday, for instance, I learned that you humans enjoy something called dating." Axel froze. "Dating? You want me to teach you about dating?" he asked incredulously. "Of course," she replied, stepping past him into the apartment, making herself comfortable on the couch. "You humans must have strange ways of finding partners. I would like to understand them better." Axel rubbed his temples. "Okay. Fine. But you have to promise me you won't make it weird," he said, eyes narrowing. Zyra leaned back, adopting a contemplative expression. "Make it weird," she repeated slowly, as though the idea was foreign to her. "But I believe the weirdness is what makes it intriguing, Axel." Axel couldn't argue with that logic, but the idea of explaining dating to an alien diplomat was already giving him a sinking feeling. It wasn't just the fact that Zyra's behavior was unpredictable, it was the way she spoke, the way her words always seemed to have hidden meanings that made every sentence sound like something more than it was. Every time she looked at him, Axel felt like there was a deeper message embedded in her gaze. "All right, so dating," Axel began, pacing slightly, "is when two people get together to see if they're compatible for a relationship. It's kind of like a test, I guess." Zyra nodded attentively. "A test, you say? You mean like a trial?" Axel nodded, trying to keep his explanation straightforward. "Yeah, sort of. You go on dates, talk, see if you get along, and if you do, you continue seeing each other." Zyra leaned forward, clearly fascinated. "And do you humans use words to express interest? Or do you engage in physical rituals to express your desires?" Axel blinked, his mind scrambling to process what she was asking. Well, both. I guess you start with words, conversation, and then, depending on how things go, maybe there's some physical stuff. You know, like kissing or..." "Ah yes, kissing, a form of intimate contact," she interrupted, her voice laced with curiosity. "I'm familiar with the concept. But tell me, Axel, does this involve exploring one another's bodies? I've read about the sensation humans experience when they engage in these activities." Axel's face turned a bright shade of red. "Whoa, hold on. I wasn't talking about anything like that. I was just explaining the basics." Zyra seemed unfazed, her eyes twinkling as though she were enjoying Axel's discomfort. "Of course. But it seems essential for me to understand all the components of your rituals. You must kiss your date, correct? Or is it optional?" Axel could barely string together a coherent sentence. Well, it's not required, but, yeah, if there's chemistry, you kiss. It's a part of the process. You know, building attraction. Zyra raised an eyebrow. So, it's like a magnetic force between two bodies? That's fascinating. Tell me, Axel, when you kiss someone, do you feel this magnetism? Is there a connection? Axel let out a frustrated sigh, feeling more than a little overwhelmed. Okay, I think we're getting off track here. You wanted to know about dating, not about, well, kissing. I disagree, Zyra responded, leaning in a little too close. I believe kissing is an integral part of this ritual. You see, Axel, it's not just about words and companionship. It's about connection. And you, human, seem like the perfect subject for me to study. Her voice was low, almost teasing, and Axel had no idea if she was genuinely trying to learn about human relationships or if she was just messing with him. He took a deep breath, trying to regain control of the situation. Zyra, I don't think this is helping. I'm just trying to explain the basics. Dating isn't about one specific thing. It's about compatibility and getting to know each other. Zyra seemed to consider this for a moment, then sat back, her gaze lingering on him. I see, she said slowly, as though she were pondering something deeper. You humans are quite complicated. Your need for interaction, connection, and touch is intriguing. Axel, finally starting to regain his composure, shook his head. It's not as complicated as you think, Zyra. You just need to find someone you like, spend time with them, and see where it goes. Simple as that. Zyra tilted her head, an enigmatic smile on her lips. Simple. Yes, I'm beginning to understand. But Axel, tell me, how do you decide who is worthy of your affection? How do you choose who to date? Axel hesitated. That was a tough question. How did anyone decide? Was it chemistry? Gut feeling? He shrugged. I guess you just feel it. When you find someone you connect with, you just know. Zyra's eyes sparkled. Interesting. I'll keep that in mind. Feelings, Axel. I'll need to explore this concept further. Axel ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. This was going to be harder than he thought. Explaining human relationships to an alien diplomat was one thing. Explaining emotions? That was a whole different beast. Still, he couldn't help but be fascinated by Zyra's curiosity. Before Axel could speak, Zyra was already looking at him with an almost predatory gleam in her eye. I believe I'm beginning to understand, Axel. Thank you for your guidance. Her words hung in the air like a promise of things yet to come. Axel wasn't sure whether to be relieved or terrified. Either way, he had a feeling this assignment wasn't going to get any easier. But somehow, it was starting to get a whole lot more interesting. Axel woke up to a strange sense of dread. He hadn't slept well, mostly because the events of the last few days had left him on edge. Zyra was a constant presence in his life now, and while part of him had grown used to her, another part was still confused, unsure whether to take her behavior seriously or just laugh it off. The worst part? He couldn't stop thinking about the things she said, the way she spoke. Her double meanings, the suggestive tone, he couldn't quite tell if she was messing with him, or if there was something more to it. This morning, Axel had planned on doing something simple. He had a list of errands, maybe some downtime, but Zyra had other plans. As usual, she called before he could even think of leaving. Axel, her voice came through the phone, low and almost playful. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Urgent? You've got to be kidding me. Axel sighed, rubbing his eyes. What now? I've been thinking, she continued, clearly enjoying his annoyance. You humans, your emotions are so complicated, aren't they? Axel sat up straight, immediately intrigued, though wary. What are you talking about? I think it's time you show me the real human experience, Axel. We need to discuss the interactions between the sexes. The magnetic forces that pull you humans together. Axel groaned. He should have known this was coming. Look, Zyra, we've been through this. I'm not going to give you a sex ed lesson, okay? Zyra's voice dropped even lower. It's not just about that, Axel. I need to understand the feelings behind these things. The connection you speak of. How does one truly know when they found someone? Axel leaned back, trying to clear his head. Zyra, it's not that simple. It's not something you can just explain. He stopped himself, realizing he had already lost. Fine, I'll meet you. But this ends today. I can't keep doing this. I'll see you soon, she purred, and the line went dead. An hour later, she appeared at his doorstep, as expected. Her eyes glowed, like they always did when she had something on her mind. Axel tried to act like everything was fine, though he could feel the tension rising. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep pretending to be normal. Zyra didn't waste time getting to the point. As soon as she stepped inside, she was practically pulling Axel along with her. You said something earlier, Axel, she began. You spoke of connections, of feelings. But what are feelings really? How does one feel when they know someone is the right choice? Axel rubbed his temples. Zyra, I've already told you, it's about chemistry. It's about spending time together, talking, and just feeling it. You just know when it's right. Zyra smiled knowingly. But how does it feel, Axel? Does your heart race? Do your senses heighten? When you feel the pull, what happens? Axel swallowed hard. He had never been good with this kind of conversation, and now, with an alien diplomat grilling him about human attraction, he was even worse. It's not that dramatic, he muttered. It's just a feeling. A natural thing. It happens when you're with someone you connect with. Zyra moved closer, her voice turning almost hypnotic. And when you kiss them, Axel? When you press your lips to theirs, does everything change? Does it alter you? Axel froze. His heart skipped a beat, and for a split second, he had no idea how to respond. Zyra, what are you getting at? His voice wavered slightly, but he couldn't stop himself. Something about the way she spoke was unsettling, making everything feel more intimate than it should. Zyra's eyes glinted as she stepped closer, her breath warm against his skin. I think you know exactly what I mean, Axel. You humans kiss when you connect. You embrace the feelings, the chemistry. I don't think this is what you should be focusing on, Axel stammered, trying to step back, but she was already too close. This isn't about just kissing, it's about. But it is about kissing, Axel, she interrupted, her voice dripping with intention. How else do you humans express yourselves? How do you show that you care? Axel felt his pulse quicken. He was caught between wanting to run away and wanting to understand where she was coming from. The line between her innocent curiosity and her more suggestive behavior was blurring, and it was messing with his head. Look, Zyra, this is a lot. This whole thing, it's too much. I don't know what you're really trying to get at. Zyra seemed unfazed. In fact, she looked more intrigued than ever. But Axel, I need to understand you. I need to understand why you humans go to such lengths to seek out connections, to find people you care about. And kissing is a part of that. I sense it. Axel could feel his face flush. It's not all about kissing, he said, trying to regain some sense of normalcy. It's about trust, communication, shared experiences. It's not just one thing, okay? Zyra nodded slowly, still watching him intently. I see. So, kissing is just the beginning? Axel let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Exactly. It's just a part of it. You don't just kiss someone and expect everything to fall into place. There's more to it. Zyra didn't move for a moment, her gaze unwavering. Then, almost casually, she said, and yet, it seems you humans do kiss quite often. Even when it's not necessary. Axel's mind raced. The way she said it, the look on her face, there was no doubt now. Zyra had been flirting with him all along, and the worst part was, he hadn't even realized it until now. All the cryptic comments, the suggestive words, it was all part of her plan. Was she really trying to understand human attraction? Or was this just another game she was playing? I think I need a break from this, Axel said suddenly, his voice shaking with the mix of confusion and frustration. He turned to walk away, but Zyra's voice stopped him. You may run away, Axel, she said softly, but the truth remains. There's always a connection waiting to be discovered. Axel's heart raced again, but this time, he didn't stop. He needed distance. He needed to think. The last few days had been a whirlwind of strange emotions, teasing double meanings, and unspoken feelings. And somehow, through it all, Zyra had wormed her way into his thoughts. As he stepped out of the apartment and into the fresh air, Axel knew that nothing about this was going to be simple. Whatever she had planned, whatever game she was playing, it wasn't over. And he wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever came next. But one thing was certain, his life had changed forever. And Zyra was going to be the one to make sure of that.